I was saying, Chris, it feels like forever since I've seen you, like literally forever.
It's been a while, mate.
Sit back, grab a cold beverage from the fridge and relax, because you're now locked into the sounds of memes and machines.
You had a few events, I had a client project or two, and then Ben is always at events as well. So it's like, you know, it's trying to get us all aligned on a Friday or a Sunday morning. That makes sense that and I've got a family as well. So that's always a consideration.
Well, you know, in your hierarchy of priorities, I think you need to deprioritize the family, Chris. Unconventional, very unconventional, but...
I've got a second kid on the way, mate. That's going to be a lot harder to ignore when there's two of them going different directions. You got to pick your favorite then. You
got to pick your favorite. Which one do I save? That one's about to put its hand in the plug.
Exactly.
That one's about to put its hand over there. Which one do I save? Exactly. So Ben, tell us about your networking. Hit us. I want to know about. I saw your post today about networking. You're usually anti-network, but
yeah, you've been at 11 Labs and stuff, haven't you? With Rock, and you've been at
choose my networking
fair places.
My network. I go with intention. I don't usually just rock up to a place because I think I'm gonna, you know, sip a few cocktails and meet some nice people. I'll go if I know there's people going to be there that I know that I want to speak to.
Yeah.
Because then I come back from it and I know that I got something out of it. I mean, I don't do that with all the events I go to, but I'm very selective with my time and what events I go to, depending on who I think is going to be there, or if I know specifically somebody is going to be there. And I treat networking a little bit like when I go to conventions and brands. If I go to a convention, there are a lot of brands, and I list out the brands. I say, which brands do I want to speak to? I beeline to those brands, and I don't fuck about. I say, who's in charge of this? And then I go and chat to them. And then I do the same sort of thing with networking events with people. If I see there's a person now, I'm like, I want to speak to that person. You know, I think I've got something valuable to offer them. I think that we could work together in some capacity. I don't just go because I want to just sort of clout chase. I don't give a shit about that. I just think that me and them could work well together in some capacity and offer value to each other. It's just business. And that's just the way that I do it. I'm very just like some people don't like that.
If you're an events organizer listening to this, please take all of that advice, because if you're a small, like, solo person like Ben, or a micro agency like us, then you need to know that every event's worth your time. You really do. Like, you got to be super transparent about who's going to be there. And, you know, don't just say, oh, Google will be attending. It's like, who at Google's attending? Is it the head of AI? Is it the head of... You know, because that could make the fundamental difference on whether or not we choose to attend.
Honestly, I'll tell you who did that, and I'm not happy about it. And they blast their ads all over LinkedIn. Creator Fest last year, right? And I ain't afraid to say it because it's the truth.
Wow.
Right? They blast out like their ads and comms like their creator festival. Barely any creators there. They listed all the brands that were going to be.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh great, all the brands have got stands. But no, it turns out, no, the brands that are going to be there are just the employees from the brand turning up as like people. I'm like, I'm not sure about that.
Because then they can slap Coca-Cola and Amazon.
So they're not there representing the brand on a stand. They're just there turning up as an attendee. And I'm like, that's a bit false there in the marketing.
False marketing, it is false marketing. There's no way to say it. Like, that's what I mean is, like, be super transparent. It's really, really, I struggle with events, especially now I'm a dad, because every single one that's international, like, you know, Rourke, good friend of ours right now, Ben, he's stuck in an airport. I don't know if you've talked to him, but he's literally just trying to get back from America, and he's had 4 cancelled flights in a row. He literally WhatsApped me this morning going, dude, it's the worst travel experience of my entire life. I can't tell you how bad. I want to scream at everybody in the airport. And apparently the staff are leaving the airport because of the stresses and pressures of the cancellations. And it's like a complete nightmare sometimes to get internationally to events like this. And so you need to really know that it's worth it. Like, we sacrifice like thousands of client billing hours to leave for a week, you know, every single week. And that's not even covering our own speakers costs or anything. It's just what the lack of work would be if we step away. Most agency CEOs, they don't actually do anything in the agency. That's what the truth is. They are just like, as soon as they talk and step away, Ben, everything that still would get done gets done by that agency. The CEO is just to bring work to the agency. They have no involvement in the agency or the output of the creatives. And so that's why like people as employees just show up, because they're not due to do anything else and it won't affect their income in any way. That's their role, is to show up. So they're just constantly showing up. But yeah, hey, Joel, cheers, mate. We're having a bit of a rant here on a Friday.
I was going to say, you are not giving Friday feels, both of you. You sound extremely grumpy. I will leave one point on events because I think it segues nicely into what I want to talk about today. But events, I think you hold two truths. Most of them suck. Let's be honest. You're right. Most of them suck. They oversell. They're not great. However, conversely, the ones that connect people meaningfully, the ones that have generally all the attention, they can be spectacular. We wouldn't be here around this table if we didn't get together at a form of an event, a kind of community gathering. You mentioned, Ben, some of your most meaningful kind of relationships and the foundations of your relationships. And I think it just speaks to the broader point around connection. I think the events are inconsequential in the equation. It's spaces for people to connect to where the magic happens. And undoubtedly, there's going to be a lot of businesses emerge around the experience space, which actually leads me on to what I want to talk about today. During, I think it was South by Southwest, it was a large conference in London. A company called Artisan, AI company, they plastered these quite triggering ads all over that played into stereotypes about lazy employees, like AI doesn't work from home. AI won't, it just plays on all these kind of like satirical stereotypes and say, you don't need people, use AI. And they've done this for some time. I saw their ads out in America about a year ago. It caused controversy. They roll out and they're really tacky. They look crap. There's like no art direction. They're
all purposeful,
Yeah, it's really, you know what, Chris? I don't think it's purposeful. I just think they have shit taste. I actually don't think it's purposeful.
No, it is purposeful. I know the young guy and he talks about it on his podcast. He said it's purposely badly designed. It's purposely, everything's intentional. Everything's as ragey as it can possibly be to designers. That's the whole idea, is that their marketing goal is to get designers to post and moan about this in order to spread their message further. So they do like what's called guerrilla marketing stunts, like in-person physical things, and then they get online distribution through the rage. And that actually, you know, because CEOs see that and go, what's this?
This is where I think a lot of people do the retrospective after they've had success, because I saw the product a long time ago, and what you see, those caricatures, well before they did any out-of-home advertising, well before they were doing Ragebait, it was still a crappy looking, this kind of surreal, tacky treatment. So maybe it's intentional. I don't know the intent, but I always think there's this retrospective story where something's effective, a founder, a management team, a marketing team go all in on that tactic, and they kind of dial that up and repeat it. And we say, oh, it was genius. And I think genius is often in retrospect. So I will say, but the broader point around Ragebait, I actually think is increasingly happening more and more so in what are traditionally sanitized arenas, technology, B2B. We're seeing all these B2B companies like Cluesly came out and said cheat. They did this kind of like sci-fi surreal film and garnered all the attention, saying like just leaning into being a cheater. So there's all this kind of like Ragebait marketing happening in an arena that is typically stale, indifferent, conservative, safe. I'd love to get both of your thoughts on those two trends. One, Ragebaiting as a marketing tactic, its role and where you should use it. And then two, maybe B2B growing some balls. That's what I'm going to call it.
Yeah. Well, it's going against the grain. That's for sure. You know, it couldn't, like you said, e-commerce tries all of this. It's all about street drops and like growth hacks. And, you know, so B2B is the most sterile place where it would be the most against the grain. is the way I think about it. So it's going to have the most impact. That's my initial thoughts. But just something I wanted to talk about when I hand over to Ben, right? Some of my best relationships have come from face-to-face meetings, and we did all meet down in London. And in the age of AI and agents and social media being taken over by AI stuff, I feel like those in-person face-to-face meetings are going to be way more important, because essentially my AI avatar could post for me. My AI avatar could go to meetings and stuff, but you're never going to truly know what I'm like until you meet me in person now, because you can set that up in a way where it's very PR friendly. And then like, the real person's a very different character. You've got an online persona, which will be your AI. So what do you think about
that? I can answer that, and then I'll go back to the other question. I had a thought about, I've been writing some tweets up around this the other day, and I was like, the one thing that an AI avatar will never have is like real passion for creating and educating.
Yep.
And
even if you're the one driving it,
I'd argue, I would also, yeah, and I added to that, I also think the majority of people who rely on avatars will also lack the passion to create and to educate, because they're taking shortcuts. Like, I know not being on camera isn't for everyone. I understand that. You can still be passionate about educating without being on camera. But in a day and age that's coming where AI, I just think being on camera is the advantage, because
definitely,
because even though
this
you
sort of
might
live
say,
stream setup, especially, I would say
we'll get to a point where AI avatars do have passion and can show emotion, and they are like for like, but it isn't real. And I think there'll be things that on platforms that distinguish who is real and not through deprecation, whether people use that or not, or the technology gets more advanced, so actually it just does it the platforms do it for you, and you can't actually choose. It just knows that it's
I hope that's not the case. I'd love to show you a B angle though, because this is the most interesting case study I've heard of this. There is a female UFC fighter who is using an AI avatar to attend her media conferences and stuff like this, because then she can focus more on her training. And this is the thing.
Give a shit, Chris. That's bollocks. That's not her showing up.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, that's the argument then. It's like, you know, I guess in the case of like creators space and personal brands, because that's what athletes are in, you know, if you're not showing up, then it's going to do worse than if you show up. Therefore, it's better if you and your personality are there, because her argument is essentially, if I can just focus on the one thing I want to do, which is sports, the media obligation is the thing that I have to do. But if I can make something so that I don't have to do that, then I'll actually be able to better myself at the thing I do want to do, which is the sport.
That's a weak argument.
Fair enough.
There's one thing I want to do. Oh, so why don't I just put my AI avatar to do a million other things that I don't want to do, so I can leverage all of the things from that? It's the same argument. If I could only focus on one thing, because it's the thing that I enjoy the most, it brings me the most fulfillment. And actually, do you know what? Posting on TikTok, posting on Instagram, posting on YouTube, that's my media responsibilities. I'm just going to use an AI avatar there. Like, to me, that's like, I get that example. The sport is her thing, but
lazy. What you're describing,
I don't think she should be able to live like,
You're describing prioritization. Her number one thing is to be an athlete. So she's saying, I don't want to do all these media commitments. So you're right. Like, you're both right in what you're saying. It's interesting. You know what I thought? I read a take from the former CEO of a guy called Nick Tran, former CEO of CMO, of TikTok. And I've read one of his comments. It was actually this morning, and he's an advisor in one of our businesses. Cool guy. And he said, we're entering this strange era where how something's made is as consequential as what is made. Meaning now we know it's AI. We have this very different relationship with the content, not just the content or the story. We're starting to, and this is quite a unique time in history. We've been able to manipulate and emulate and orchestrate and use technology to create things, but now we're fully simulating people. And that is a a strange adjustment. And I just thought that was interesting how the dynamics of production change, the shift in what we value, maybe our entertainment choices shift a little bit. It's very interesting.
Do you know a good sort of analogy here? And this is, I hope it's not the true case, is fast fashion. Because how it's made in the Chinese sweatshops, you know, the fact that it's $2 or $3 for a Shein thing, they're the most popular still on the high street. And yet there's a lot of like Gen Z and below that are growing sentiment that this is unsustainable, unethical, and yet like millennials and others still buy it. It's kind of strange. Like, I think the younger generations certainly are more clued up onto the like how it's made rather than just the what it is. But how much that matters in consumer behavior and capitalism, honestly, it's hard to argue, because some of the like YouTube VO3 shorts that are AI generated, they get hundreds of millions of views. You're like, well, it's hacking into the same sort of dopamine that shorts were anyway. You know, lots of long form creators loathed shorts because of how baity they were. And so like an avatar there to just quickly tell you the news feels very different to long form. And like,
my view is though that we're kind of crossing between two things, because what you're describing is like cheap thrills versus like content that gives you something. You learn something, you feel inspired, you feel something. Like right now, my favorite online caricature is this offensive koala bear. It's a little light Ted, and it literally
VO3 character.
Yeah, VO3 character, and it's hilarious and it's outrageous. And like that's what I think that's AI creativity at its best. And I actually reached out to the koala bear, believe it or not, and said, hey, I'm curious of who does this videos. It's actually it's an automation agency in Australia.
God, no, that's the thing that scares me. It's like, look, we've just been given the most creative tools of our entire generation, and yet they want to automate them. It's
they're an automation agency. They're not automating. It's really well written. I'm sure AI is embedded into all of that. It's just really good, thoughtful, outrageous, funny content. The point being is they're most well versed with the tools because that's their profession.
I see.
They're not from a creative background, yet they're able to express themselves creatively. They're creating IP now. That's just this offensive koala bear that swears, and it's outrageous, and it's actually genuinely hilarious. And I just think for me it's a signal of a new era of influence, because we had, you know, you had the celebrity, then you had the proliferation of owning a niche, the micro influence. You have all these movements. Then you have the live streamer that proliferated and have this deep connection with an audience and a fan base. You've got the podcast sphere. And then alongside that now, you've not only got faceless pages, Chris, like, you know, building community around a passion. You've now got like brand new IP that's being created and generated and has a tone of voice. And this is thinking like studio orchestration. So that's where I go, the space gets really interesting. And I'd love, and I think it lends, and I'll actually say the people that are winning in that space, they're kind of rage baiting now. Because think of that contrast. Cute koala bear, wildly offensive.
They're attention hacking. It's not rage baiting. There's a big difference. The psychological thing that they're doing is like, if you took a psych class or a marketing class, it would be the 101. It would be the first thing, you know, here's the core fundamentals. Like a baby's face is instantly attention grabbing. You know, a mother will see a baby, like that's why there's these like viral shorts where a baby's being sucked out of like an airplane window and then floating down, and it's like it's psychologically hacking your brain to pay attention, and that's all it needs is the first few seconds, and then millions of views.
I like how you described that sentence like we all knew what you were talking about. I don't know about a baby being sucked down the plane.
Oh mate, there's a
how normalized you said that though. You said it just
but that's the most AI video. Like it's got 500 million YouTube play shorts, and it's the most like. It's called brain rot for a reason, because it literally is like brain rot. It literally, it psychologically hacks the part of our psyche that's from the Stone Age that we don't even know that are our most attention grabbing, like motherhood, like babies, like certain things, like, you know, that's the trigger. Now, I will say, and this is what I want to hear from Ben, right? The future of social media is completely changed. When VO3 came out and it's multimodal and it can do sound effects, it can do dialogue, it can create characters. Like the koala bear is actually a Bigfoot Yeti guy. I know the guy that started the trend, and all of these characters have been built off that being doing so well. Yeah. And like there's an LA-based dentist that made a Bigfoot video, and they got like customers out the door. And this is the thing is, it was a clever sort of jumping on the trend in order to include your dentist as a short part of the VO3, very minimally, you know, effort generated, but millions of views. Is that the future? Or do you think that like there's a different, because that feels like the future.
There's someone that's worked in social media for 10 years. This is not the future. That's just a hack. I'll tell you what. So remember on Facebook, when you could press a button and you had you could pause and you could like stop motion a video. We got creative with that and had one of the most viral posts ever that had 300 million likes or something, because it was super novel. It was like press to reveal, and you pressed and it was like a chicken nugget. Like it was that type of thing that we did on a page called Student Problems. Remember not long ago, CGI appeared everywhere. Everyone was creating these surreal moments. Remember when filters were everywhere? All what we're seeing now is novelty. Novelty has always been a tactic in marketing, when either a new feature, a new capability, something we haven't seen before, but the principles that underpin that are the same. Novelty new, I haven't seen it, thumb stopping. So it's either juxtaposed, cute face, offensive language, or it's shocking. They're all the same behavior.
Can I make a counter to that though? Right, you at that time were a specialist agency that designed something to break the feed, and that was your specialism. VO3 is directly integrated into YouTube Shorts, and any dentist can go generate it. There's a massive difference there, mate. Like, you know, what I'm saying is now a third of all YouTube Shorts will be generative AI, and that's like, you know, everybody has the same capability now.
Yeah, but you're just saying the barrier to do something interesting has been lowered.
No, what I'm saying is you started a trend that only you could make. When one starts a trend now, everyone can make it. You know, they can pop onto a trend with zero skill.
Absolutely not. Not anyone could do that. You just have more people participating today, for sure. But
that's exactly the description of the koala that swears. He's hopped on the Bigfoot trend. That's all he's done. Yeah, but he's literally gone, that's a viral thing. I could set up.
Chris, your question was, is this the future of marketing? And I'm telling you from a historical
Right.
No, because
you can't compare this to historical, because this is different. That's what I'm saying is VO3 means that anyone can generate and put social media out there. No face, no effort, automated. That's not anything that's ever been possible before, mate.
No, that's not true though, Chris, because someone could have created a viral video 5 years ago that most people could have created because it was low effort. So you're saying that there's never been a time where low effort,
though, Ben. You'd have to actually have the skills to reshoot it.
But it might not have been a skillful video that required skill, though.
I'm saying the fact that you have to own a camera, the fact that you have to do any effort at all instead of just type, you know, I want a koala swearing exactly like the Bigfoot did, but with a different sentence. That's the like least friction to ever make content. Therefore, the whole of social media will become this type of content to a large degree because it's such low effort.
And then it will just be diluted, though. And then
yes, it is. That's what I'm saying. Is sadly, it's gonna. It's already diluting. My YouTube Shorts is a large majority of it.
Where I fundamentally disagree as someone with, I've seen every trend consistently, and all you're saying is more people can do it, and it's a different type of trend with a different type of technology. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying there's a historical. You said, "Is this the future?" And I said, "No," because what happens? Something new comes along, and will VO2 be a huge part of content creation? VO3 and beyond be a huge? Sure. 100%, I think, and like Midjourney will be a huge part of image generation and for, you know, on websites, like all these tools will be a huge part. But my point around like the results, these are novel and it's like first mover advantage. And the only reason that like we were able to take advantage of that moment was we were just in tune with the internet. And that dentist was in tune with the internet. Whether they could have done that in the past, of course, they couldn't have created an animation in the past that was interesting. Yeah. That would have cost, you know, £1 million of special effects and animators and a full studio. Like, of course, they couldn't have done that. But they still had the amplitude and the thought and the experimental nature as a dentist to do something interesting. They were in tune with the culture. So I don't think it signals any significant... Look, the technology is a significant shift in how we can create content. But at my point, historical reference was, it's not going to be everything. There's just going to be lots more of that type of nature, like the thread of new characters. Like we're seeing the vlogs, the historical vlogs that come through, the first person, these kind of showcasing. I think all this stuff's really interesting and wonderful. But it'll become tired and looped, and there'll be a niche for that. Like it's that continued fragmentation. That was the point I was making.
I'd love to like revisit this episode in 12 months just to get like a sense check of where we are, because right now Meta hasn't released movie gen and YouTube Shorts hasn't really pushed VO3 much. But both of these are unique in my history because they're the creators of the platforms that are giving like users the ability to make content without like, you know, any friction. And that's never, in my case, like I think we're going to see 100x in the YouTube content because of this, like in the next couple of years, because 1 in 1,000 people post YouTube videos and 999 of them just watch them. But when somebody starts a trend like the Bigfoot thing and everyone can go just directly to YouTube and type their own version to start things, I think a lot more people will do it. But yeah, I'm happy to say that I believe trends like social media, like you've been saying, have been one thing, but I think that in direct ownership of Meta and Movie Gen and VO3 and YouTube and Google, and that because you'd want more content, right? They want more content on the platform. That's why they're doing this. There's one thing I want to talk about, Ben. This is, have you seen the...
Do you think they want more content, or do you think they... because I don't think it's got anything to do with the platforms. I think it's fundamentally just you're now democratizing just these really powerful imagination tools. That means
I think the incentives all change when you post, mate. Because think about it, you're in the dopamine cycle of likes and stuff. Then, if you're just a passive viewer of YouTube and you've never uploaded a video, you could easily swap and change to any other platform that you could watch videos on. Whereas if you're uploading it and coming back for the clicks and the likes, and you're way more invested in that platform. So of course, yeah, they want more of the percentage of their users to post, because then you're more invested in the platform. But Ben, I want to ask you about MrBeast has launched an AI thumbnails YouTube creation tool. Have you seen this? He's
released his a while ago, but he's got different ones.
This is the new one because everyone's talking about it on YouTube right now. He's partnered up with some company and it's like $100 a month, and you can literally put someone's YouTube in it.
Bastard, $100 a month. Man,
it's crazy. It's the same. Hey, the thing I don't understand is how it's any different to Sora. Why all these YouTubers are having a backlash against this and not Sora when you could do the exact same thing, and it's a lot cheaper. I don't quite understand it. That's what I wanted to ask you about, though. Why do you think
he's removed it?
Has he really?
Yeah, 47 minutes ago on BBC.
Wow. Well, it's
removed AI
had such a massive backlash through Jacksepticeye and all these other YouTubers going.
What was the backlash on? Basically, because it's AI or the cost?
No, because when he made the promo video, he said, make YouTube thumbnails like this guy. And he had the logo and the thing of the YouTube, and they'd never consulted them. And you can literally stick their YouTube in it and then replace the face and stuff. And it's like fully ripping on people. And this is the big breaking news. It's like, but I don't understand how that's any different to what Sora can do, except that MrBeast is the biggest in YouTube and therefore should have more care for creators and thumbnail artists rather than Sora being a technology company. And that's how he seems to have got way more backlash from this type of thing. But it is, he literally said it feels like cheating in the marketing, which it literally is. You know, you're literally swapping the face of someone else's thumbnail that they maybe paid an artist for, just with your face on it or something like that. And he was charging $100 a month for that, or he was planning to. Clearly now he's taken it down. But that's mad, right?
Yeah, I didn't see this. It says 4 days ago that he created it. There's
He
quite a
partnered
few
with a big
YouTube
company to do it. I think that was
them.
the thing, yeah.
Maybe he bought out one of these ones. There's a couple of them. I've seen them. They're all about $40, $50 a month. But you could just use any of the tools natively to be able to create thumbnails.
They honestly look weaker than Sora, and it was $100 a month. So it felt like a real rip-off in terms of if it was a viable product. But I wanted your specific on it because you said initially when we started talking about Gen AI, this is all good, but it's not good enough to make my thumbnails. I'll still know better. You know, I wondered if this one was any better. But then I looked at some examples posted online and they looked terrible. It was like literally worse than Sora.
We're just moving to a place where everyone is just going to be more copying, and it just goes to the point of, well, like people, what does marketing look like in the future? And when everybody's copying, there are going to be a lot of people copying each other. If everyone has access to some sort of content workflow machine that can just basically find trends and use data to sort of produce content, right? If there are 100 viral videos, if there's a viral video that goes viral this afternoon in my niche, or a meme or something, there's 10,000 copies tomorrow in the future, because that's how machines will be built up. They'll be scanning the internet for exploding videos, and then they'll just feed it into the workflow and copy them. And so I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? If fundamentally a lot of people have access to those things, I think the new dynamic is, I mean, it's not a new dynamic, because having technical skills has always been valuable in content creation, whether it comes to knowing how to use a camera versus how to use software, you know, Photoshop, Premiere Pro, After Effects, whatever, and now AI tools, and now content workflows, automations, basically is a new technical skill that's required in creative workflows, because fundamentally in the future it's not going to be about it will be about whose machine is the best, who can produce the quickest and the best content, because you've built a machine that infuses your own creativity and experience and storytelling, and you built the machine based off your experience, but you've implemented the technicalities within the machine to be able to do it based off what's available, and that will produce results that are better than everybody else's. You're able to get fast to the market, and it's almost, how can we produce something that nobody else can produce? Right. How can our machine deliver stuff that is better than everybody else's? That is what it will ultimately come down to, because if your machine is mediocre and 10,000 other people have the same machine as you, they will all produce the same results as you. And so you can't win, you can't stand out. And so we're inevitably moving towards this point. I don't know how long it will take, but I think it's this new evolvement of content creation and technology where it's okay, well, this is my niche. Lots of data input, lots of creative input, you know, from a human, and constantly optimizing and iterating the machine to produce better results than everybody else, which takes away some of the art of creation, and that I get that, but we are moving towards a more,
well, it all depends on what you are, though, doesn't it? If you're a brand doing that, it's very different to a person. You know, like if you are a personal brand, then yeah, you should keep on the layers and be you and do you things and everything like that. Like if you're a brando and you're just trying to get insights out there or have a social media presence, then maybe that is one way to justify it. You know, again, it's like it all comes down to, as you said, like, what do you want to be known for, and like, where will we be most important, and all of these questions where AI is even the makers of it don't actually know the answers to this. You see some saying train to be a plumber because that's the last thing AI will be able to do, and then others saying no, we're going to need more devs than ever in the future, and then others saying, oh, we don't need devs, like AI will be doing most of the dev work. And it's like, well, which one? You know, your rival AI companies with different polar opposite opinions. So what's an ordinary person meant to know in this situation? It's hard to really comprehend. But
training of plumbers are on the way out. Not all plumbers, but like I can just pick up my phone and just Like I'll just.
Oh, that's an augmented human experience still, though. That's the problem. It's the fine motor skills of the like robot infused with AI, and that's maybe going to be the hardest thing to do. Is like, you know, physical robots and with AI.
I could physically do something myself if I just follow a set of instructions that
right.
weren't which I didn't know to follow those before because I weren't able to troubleshoot the problem.
And that's the problem, though, with plumbing. It's always problem solving, and everyone's different, isn't it? Every single plumbing situation you go to is going to be fixing a problem that only a human, like an AI stack, would have to be so generalized to do that it would need to know every problem, and that's crazy.
Well, no, because they're an AI, they know the manual. They'll be trained on all the manual. There'll be obviously nuances there, but so I've gone through this. I've gone through my heating unit breaking, and I hadn't a clue what was wrong with it. And I go online to go read the manuals. Can't read the manuals, and I use ChatGPT to troubleshoot it. I had to get someone out because the thing that required replacing ultimately, or the thing I thought needed replacing, had to be done by somebody. But it got it right. Out of all of the things, I just kept feeding it information with what was going on, and so. If we take that example, if the thing was something I could have fixed, I would have fixed it. And I think when people get more comfortable in using AI to troubleshoot, the boomers, right, the people that are just using it still for their emails, you know, the people who are at home and you know, I need to fix something, and usually I would pay to go and do it. It's the same with GPs. It's the same with now. People will get more comfortable with troubleshooting. But diagnosing themselves.
It's the same debate then across everything. You've got both sides of the equation. There's a debate going on right now about the NHS integrating ChatGPT into their diagnosis services. So I can't remember, 101, the line, they want to put a chat interface, which right now is a sequence of events that they direct you to. And the debate was, we can't be self-diagnosing. And the reality is everybody already self-diagnosed. They already use Google. They already put blind trust in a trained professional. And AI today is probably better than most trained professionals. Let's call it what it is. They have a much greater knowledge base. Are they as accurate? Do they make mistakes? Yes. Do humans make mistakes? Absolutely, all the time. It's one of my key anchor points around people complaining about AI and creativity. I do a keynote, and one of my conclusive points is, as humans, we do not need technology to produce shit work. We are more than capable of doing it ourselves. So I think the reality across most things, we hold a standard to technology that we don't hold to other people. It is going to influence absolutely everything. It will influence plumbing. I do think there's a lag. I do think there's a huge, because we're in the sphere of being obsessed. We're building products. We're part of the ecosystem. So I think we have this huge bias. Our sort of cognitive bias of it and exposure is so much higher than most people. I go into the street. I walk down the street. I go for a coffee, and I go, you know, I'm in Nero in Sheffield, and I'll be like, these people don't get it.
Mate, I would argue that, yes, you're right in the UK, but if you look at some of the reports, apparently 70% of all USA businesses use ChatGPT regularly.
Well, I believe it. Students, young people, everybody uses it. Everyone I know uses it to troubleshoot. Some people are using it.
They're well aware of it now. It's like in the public psyche. Like Ben's thing is exactly the troubleshooting that everyone's doing with it, by the way. You know, a lawyer costs so much to look over a draft of a contract or something. So why not drop it to ChatGPT with a simple prompt like, is there anything
Chris, I've just done that recently.
That happens, mate. That sort of soft skill stuff is exactly what's eroding. You know, the type of thing whereby to get a professional is going to be a very costly thing. So why don't you just try a little, dip your toe in, and then if you find something, then maybe you can save money on it's the engineering thing. It's like, if you know nothing about cars and you turn up to a garage, and unfortunately, if you're a female in most countries, then you're going to just get whatever they think they can charge from you, because you know nothing about what the situation is to repair this thing, basically. And that's the same with ChatGPT. It's like, if you can get some knowledge so that you can seem professional when you approach a lawyer and say, this is exactly what I need doing, then you'll save 90% of the costs, and you'll have maybe been able to solve it anyway without even go into the lawyer in the first place in some cases. So that's where the soft skills are eroding. The sad thing about that, Ollie, is apparently all junior roles in that are largely gone. They're largely gone.
Across every profession, you're seeing it on like front-end developers are struggling because back-end now have more front-end capabilities, where you think of, and there's like this real irony though, that AI is phenomenal at something like mind-blowing advancement in some fields. In other areas, it kind of struggles. There are some fields where, you know, you'd think simpler, there's certain tasks that are quite simple that it really struggles with. So there is this, the world is filled with so many contradictions. Like even, you know, it doesn't do it perfectly, but like handling text in an image, it seems like a really easy thing to do. Clearly, yeah, mind-blowing video seems to be okay with. So there's these contradictions that exist across the sphere.
The patterns, though, are definitely the soft skills, because customer centers, you know, customer call centers, you know this more than anyone, Ollie. The agentic side of things will be able to handle that, you know, like, and that's the sort of like soft skill I'm talking about.
Anything that's potentially come on, but I see that as the opportunity. The biggest opportunity for me is focusing, because everyone's obsessed with the technology right now. And if you run a business, if you're a content creator, you should stop worrying about the tech. You should experiment, but just make great content that you care about. If you're a business, obsess over your customer, the experience. Don't be lazy and hand off to in many cases, technology will improve the experience, but in so many others, it doesn't. And like my general theory is there's parts of the world that are nuanced, and we try and have these binary views on the world. It's this or it's that. The reality is the human experience matters a lot in some areas and less so in others. I don't care, and I'm going to steal Catty's phrase because I think it's beautiful. I don't care if my techno music is generated by a machine. I absolutely care if an acoustic guitar that's, you know, an authentic story about heartbreak coming from a person is a lived human experience. I care more about that. And I think that spectrum of human experience meets tech goes across everything we do. Similarly, a plumber, I don't have conviction. There's probably many tasks I can now chat GPT, but there's a lot of stuff I don't want to do. So I'd rather someone else do that with me or for me. And I don't trust there's certain things where you want to be really accurate. Law is one of those things. If you're talking at the highest end of law where it's consequential, you probably should have some expertise. If you're talking about, I'm arguing a point with someone over email about an invoice, or, you know, I'm trying to dispute a parking ticket, ChatGPT is your go-to. It'll do absolutely fine. So, look, I think there's a lot.
Those are tons of the cases that you know normal people face. You know, like
majority of cases, you're right. So it's like I agree. And that's where like lawyers, all professionals, so any knowledge work, anywhere where you had to use a mind. Ironically now, things where we all thought the wave would absolutely robotics, hardware hasn't caught up. It's still cool, but like not everything's been fully replaced by hardware yet. You kind of said a lot of the laboring work would have disappeared by now. Predictions suggested that. And actually, ironically, it's the knowledge work that's most under threat. But
do you know what's really interesting about the knowledge work? I watched a podcast last night that said, why is AI being the most invested thing in all of technology right now? And the answer that the guy gave was basically this: if you invest as a billionaire into the energy sector, you're going to have very little influence over the other sectors that you could have invested in, right? Basically, it's a linear investment because each sector doesn't really integrate with any other major sector you can invest in. But when you invest in AI, you're investing in intelligence.
Downstream, it's the foundation. Energy is a little different, because energy is actually like the two foundations are intelligence and energy. But I get the analogy just broadly, because like
no, but what I'm saying is, if you get a breakthrough in energy, you're not going to get a breakthrough in industry. Like it's like it's not interconnected like that.
Everything's based on energy. So like that's the worst analogy you possibly could use. But I get the point. Like I'm just saying, energy is the foundation of everything that's powered. Everything needs power and energy. So downstream of that, it influences it. If costs of oil go up or cost of energy, everything is impacted.
Okay, well, maybe it does have
analogy.
impact on other sectors, but like the idea of intelligence influencing everything equally has never been seen before. So, you know, AI could solve cancer. You know, energy's got nothing to do with cancer. You know, so like, you're not going to get a breakthrough in cancer treatment because you solved energy. You know, like that's the thing I'm talking about. Whereas AI could do both.
No, for computing power. Below energy breakthrough is the fact there's not enough energy to service. There's not enough energy to service the AI demands and the technological demands. So you've got, but I'm not like being pedantic. I'm just saying that's probably like you could have used any other analogy, dude, but energy is the wrong one.
Well, that's the one that was on the podcast. I didn't give that analogy. He literally goes, there's like 7 sectors that a billionaire could invest in, and AI is the first sector that can influence every other sector. No other industry in any time in human history, because intelligence is nothing we've ever been able to buy, mate. Intelligence is now modeled on the human brain and is now becoming a thing that businesses can subscribe to. That's why it's so valuable to businesses. Is intelligence can mean anything. It can solve your problems in business, in HR, in finance.
You could buy it. It was people. It was human capital. Intelligence was people.
Yeah, human intelligence, but artificial intelligence is not something we've ever had something to have.
Well, of course,
that's the idea.
But does energy not have to sit above that though? Because if you can't have artificial intelligence unless
that's
you have
the
energy.
Current debate, Ben, is like, how the hell do we build the amount of energy and infrastructure we need to get the AI breakthroughs to take over from that? Because essentially AI will be able to optimize all of it once it's past a certain intelligence threshold. But like,
I'm fully converted, chaps. I'm just saying, of all the analogies, energy was probably the one you'd like. Yeah, I'm not. It's a non-point. We're intellectually sparring on stupid points here, but I'll just say, like, I get the point. I agree. I've preached it for a long. I saw a Sam Altman thing 3.5 years ago that described the world of how he was asked the question, how impactful will AI be on the world, and his response was twofold. He didn't directly respond. He just said, "Well, let me ask you to follow this train of thought. One, what are the 2 primary costs in the entire economy? One is energy, the cost to produce everything around us. The other is human ingenuity, intelligence. What if one of those costs, energy or intelligence, goes to almost 0? That changes everything." So like the point, and they're like one and the same. They're both like the underpinnings of society. But for the first time in history, we've been able to emulate this one thing that humans have had over everything. So yeah, I'm fully aligned with you. I just think that train of thought, look, it's a wild time to be alive, frightening, interesting, exciting. I tend to just view that you have no control over so much of this as an individual, like genuinely as a collective group, as a country, you have little control. So I tend to view like the only choice you have is to pay attention, to kind of try and be optimistic, to try and use these technologies to better your life, upskill, learn, get some digital leverage, use them in your business. I just think they're the things we have agency over. And we have to probably like roll the dice and have a little bit of hope.
Yeah, I sound negative about it, but really, I'm really optimistic, actually. You know, like our agency has loved this hybrid AI workflow. And I think some of my friends are doing some of the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. You know, I know a guy called Dave Clark who's just raised millions from Google, who's got a hybrid AI film studio, and he's IP creating and backing. And I think we're going to see all sorts of new media. I'm just saying that my worry is that fully automating creativity is a way in which we could destroy the internet and the way that we have the freedom of like stuff on the internet. So that worries me a little bit, like the fully automation of it. But the hybrid and the human in the loop.
There's a contradiction, isn't there? Because what is creativity? It's human ingenuity. It's like everything is derived from.
Yeah, it was all trained on us. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you go, the one thing humanity preserves no longer exists. So, you know, I think we're in this world that's so hyperbolic and geared by algorithms that just these extreme headlines across every. I think one of you said it earlier. You have one side of the smartest people in the world saying, yeah, don't worry about it. This is going to be amazing. You've got the other side of the world's smartest people in the world saying we're all fucked. Like those two narratives coexist because
well, it's not saying that we're fucked. It's just that you should do different things. That's the thing that people want, is some sort of like, what should I do in the future that's inevitably coming? Should I train to be a plumber? Are there still going to be engineers? One person saying yes, one person saying no. That's the real problem, is that like there's no, like, university, when my son grows up, what's he going to do? You know, like, is there going to be university?
He's going to cheat on his exam. He's going to cheat and study philosophy. That's what they're all going to do.
I hope he has a way better experience than I did. That's my hope, is that, you know, the thing I experienced was triple fees, and it wasn't that great. There was a pandemic on, you know, couldn't go to many lectures, all of these things, right?
Well, you know what I think they should do more at university? Partying. I think that'll be good for the soul. I think
it's going to be human bonding and collaboration. Yeah, 100%. In the same way that face-to-face events, like Ben said earlier, is going to be super more important. But the problem is we need to make them be special. You know, we need to make them be like, AI is going to take over a lot of the internet. There's no other ways about it. There's just no other ways about it. Like, so we're going to have to really maximize on human-to-human interaction, collaboration time. And like, I think that's going to be maybe the golden era of the internet, where people were the only ones that could upload videos of themselves, was the way it was. And now that there's so many more AIs involved, that human-to-human interaction will be something we really justify. But even these like live human broadcasts, where it's clearly us humans and no avatar would be ever able to do this, then it's like...
That's what you think. I train my avatar to, you know.
They're too corporate and safe, mate. I think Ben and I are a bit too spontaneous for an avatar to realistically be able to predict like the random impulsive things that we're about to spout off on. But, you know,
ban all avatars, isn't it? Ban all human avatars.
Yeah,
save the world. Yeah, save the world. I am just pro some form of declaration on the video, in the post, via the platform setting that up. I am not for a feed that is just a mixture of real people and fake people that look like real people.
Yeah, you want them
we separate. Are gonna, like, we're in big trouble anyway when that, you know, inevitably happens, and anybody can just generate anything. You're already seeing the cusp of it with the VO3 Bigfoot models. The reason why they're funny is because people are saying shit that is very close to the line, and people would not come on camera and say some of the stuff that these people are saying, because it exposes them. And now anybody that's got a little bit of sort of like, you know, humor to them, you know, some lads jokes, you know, some things that you probably wouldn't share outside your WhatsApp group, are now going on to TikTok, and I think that is the beginning of, I don't know. These platforms are, you know, they're not the best at censorship, some of them. And I don't know what happens when we can just create anything we want with anybody in some way, shape, or form. A lot of bad actors on the internet. They only represent a small percentage, but you only need a small percentage to cause a big disruption. I don't know what happens going to work. I'm a bit of a pessimist, as you can tell. I'm not hopeful for the world. I just think that there's I don't know. I think
in the short term, though, I can see why they're working, because like we watched one yesterday on my live show where it was like, you know this fully well, Ben, like, you know, people have just, like, MrBeast is a great example. He's just done the most insane challenges you could possibly think of and put it on YouTube and self-funded it. It's a very different sort of like trend that he's set. But we watched one yesterday that some guy generated through VO3, right, which was called Impossible Challenges. And it's like literally the things like MrBeast would want to push to but could never possibly reach. Like there was a girl licking a radioactive pole in Chernobyl. And there was like, you know, all these crazy, like, but it's a funny trend that's been big, you know, and so it's like bootstrapping off the back of a pre-existing YouTube thing. There's not really a lot of novel things except for the Bigfoot that's been started.
Chris, I remember having a conversation with a friend many years ago around virtual influencers, and this was when they were really in their infancy. There was like the one or two Twitch streamers that kind of created you know, an artificial character, and it was all manual, and it was a person wearing a suit, and it was kind of that orchestration. And I remember having the conversation, I don't really get virtual influencers. And the thread that was said to me, and it always stuck with me, was, well, the wonderful thing about characters, it can behave in a way that humans can't. It can be surreal. It can do things. It can bend the world around us. It's like a force that can bend. And like, that was just a point. And it's a bit of a romantic view on the role. What is the role of a virtual person? Is to do the things we can't. Conversely, that means that humans have to triple down on the things that we can do. And that's why I think avatars that emulate people are stupid. I think avatars that do crazy stuff that's surreal and amazing.
100,000 killer bees in my bedroom. No plan B, no plan.
Sorry, I was trying to preload that in the background and it took over the stage. Sorry.
It was, I was just about to say killer bees. But no, like the point being is that I think that's like, I think that's a really good example where you go, you physically couldn't do, well, Jackass probably have already done that. Like,
that's what I'm saying, is like, it's just catching on to trends that already existed. Like, it's not surprising in any way, because, like, you know, MrBeast is the #1 YouTuber for a reason. He literally hacked the YouTube algorithm and gamified. Many people got annoyed and said it's not as fun now because MrBeast has statified and numberfied, you know, everything. But that's what VO3 creates, is like when there's a very popular trend, like I just think accidentally added to the stage something we watched. It's like, it's easy to see why in the sort of like format of YouTube in its current algorithm that this type of thing does do viral numbers, you know, because it's already something people watched and now loads more people can make it. Just like you said, Ollie, you're the prime example, mate. You're a seasoned social pro and your favorite thing right now is a swearing koala. Come on. You know, Paul's dad also said he likes the Bigfoot that's Australian. Paul's dad sent this on YouTube. He's not even in the... So from someone that's the most, like, you know, experienced social media person in the room, always, wherever you go, to someone that has no experience in social media whatsoever, you're both now finding the same exact trend in your YouTube shorts, and you've both found it as your favorite thing. And that's why it's so... No-face channels.
You know what it explode. As you say that, it just reminded me of like one of my favorite old-time comedians, George Carlin.
Legends.
He said, think of the average American, and he's using it to American, but he's think of the average person. And he said the most frightening thing about that thought, half the world is dumber than that person. Like the central point is we're all dumb. We're all monkeys. We're all
psychologically hacked, yeah, because we've got, like, you know, we are advanced monkeys, like you say. Like, I watch this stuff and I'm like, wow, this is hilarious. I'd watch way more of it. Do you want to show it? I can show it on the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this guy, right, called Demon Flying Fox, basically just used VO3. Now, the reason that this trend is, and this is what I want to talk about afterwards, it's the multimodality of it all. If you just generated video, Ben, it's not enough. If you just generated sound, it's not enough. It's the dialogue, the sound effects, and the video all wrapped into one as a prompt that you just start with text first. That's what makes this, like, so watchable.
100,000 killer bees in my bedroom. No plan B, no plan A either.
I've been buried alive under 10,000 pounds of beans. Let's see if I can get out.
I gave my credit card number to the dark web just to see what happens.
I'm trying to get adopted by crocodiles. They haven't eaten me yet, so that's a good sign. Welcome to Rabies Roulette. Today, I covered myself in raw chicken, and I'm gonna fight off stray dogs.
They begged me not to eat this fruit, but I felt energetically drawn to it.
Day 143 of rebuilding the Great Pyramid in my backyard.
15 years, 2 divorces, 1 restraining order, and today I found Bigfoot. I'm about to drink the Atlantic Ocean. Let's see if 41 million square miles fits in one man. Today, legends, I'm drinking toilet water from every country on Earth, and today we're deep.
Just for it, I'll play devil's advocate. Like, I can see why that's done well. I personally don't find that interesting. What I will say is what I found interesting was and again, this is a bit outrageous, but 50 Cent is now like consistently trolling P. Diddy. And he released like, it was a sitcom that was like a nod to P. Diddy and all the characters. And the reason I found that funny, it wasn't that the like design or treatment was any better than what we just watched. It's because I'm invested in the storyline of a real person and the theater and the satire. Right. And I know the characters, meaning I know who 50
Cent.
Yeah,
you have a human level of empathy.
Yeah, I have a connection with the characters. And I think I think what we're missing in this equation, and it's still really interesting, is I have no connection to that video. It's still a thrill to me.
So why is the swearing koala your favorite creator right now?
Just because it's actually just really well done. It's genuinely funny.
I don't think it'll be your favorite character for very long, though, will it? That's the thing.
And that's the thing, is it's a creator behind that. So then it's like, you know, it's a, like in every case, right, everyone's got like this ability to latch onto a trend. It's like, but did you make it better? Did you pass the creative pattern in some way?
If the way that the koala continues to win is not in its current form, just doing similar clips and funny, is there has to be a sequential storyline where I'm invested.
Right.
There has to be something to follow. And the problem, although it's not a problem, it's just where we're at in the journey of this evolution, is everything's just short, trivial, because that's the best we can do now. It's still not Yellowstone, and I'm not going to binge that on a weekend. It's still not, and it doesn't mean in 5-10 years that someone in their bedroom won't be capable of creating Yellowstone, because they probably will. But at the end of the day, there's got to be continuity. I've got to feel something.
I think in these, so I think a lot about these shorts. I've seen all sorts of these. I've seen koala, the Bigfoot. You know, there's meerkats running around. There's another one, but the problem is that they're entertainment accounts, and I would say it's harder to build a connection with an entertainment account. But if there's no thread that's running, like you've just said, Ollie, and they're all just random, which they kind of are, there is some thread running with these, you will not build connection with people long term, because they're just dopamine hits of entertainment, and the people will forget about them when the new thing comes along next month, when somebody's funnier, and then somebody's funnier, and somebody's funnier. And so I actually think crafting a narrative and storyline behind the character to get people invested for a long time, like they are like you know, how people, you know, like anime and characters, and people literally like the diehard fans. How does the Yeti or the koala bear turn into getting people to be diehard fans? And I think that's incredibly difficult. The
problem is, Ben, is this is all just a reaction to the social algorithms. You know, it's all being made because of the way that you can get hundreds of millions of views through the attention grab of shorts and stuff. It wouldn't be made otherwise, you know. So it's trying to get mass exposure. And I agree, though, you need like character consistency. You need to build a brand in a world. We're all in world building territories now. AI lets us build our own world, but you need to keep people immersed in your world and coming back to your world and recognizing that. That's been my big criticism of AI creators, is you can never tell project to project who did it. Whereas in our projects with Paul, you can always see, oh, Paul has a 3D textured sort of, it all looks like Paul made it.
But you know what? Yeah, but you can see that, but the common user don't get
No, everyone comments on that, Ben. They can tell that Paul was behind this. He has, because
but is that your AI community though, or is that
no? These are our clients, because what happens is Paul was a graphic designer for like 15 years before he started AI. So he understood brand and brand building and exercising. Whereas a lot of people that are new to AI now, they just hop on trends because they don't understand this legacy longevity thing. Whereas Paul's come in with that knowledge.
You know what's exciting though? What you're describing there is mastery, Paul, what he's achieved as an artist, combined with now unlimited capabilities or extended capabilities and resources, and you get a sweet spot. The way I would describe it is, I'm a big fan of South Park creators, Trey and what's the name?
Matt Stone Parker, yeah,
Matt Stone Parker. And like we're going to have an emergence of these types of minds, really good storytellers that now don't actually need a full production studio. But the thread will be some continuity, and continuity can just mean they're so timely. Like if that koala bear is reacting to like storylines the day of the news and like something that's contextually relevant in my life, it might keep me. If that koala bear can take me on a journey and introduce me to new people, and I'm actually invested in seeing what happens, I might stay there. So again, I go back to principles are not changing here of entertainment, of content. They are not changing at all. The distribution is the factors how we create, of course, opens up the field to many more people with great imaginations. But definitely, the principles, they're not evolving.
I'd love to close out the episode with talking about that, the distribution of the exact example you just gave me. So South Park has always had to go through Comedy Central, Paramount Plus, and HBO Max.
Yeah.
Each one of their things has had to be okayed by TV regulators, by the networks. All of those people have had to say yes to the extreme, like, satirical comedy that they make. Now, that's very different into like the distribution model on social media. You can basically post anything on X or Reddit, and it's not got any sort of mainstream broadcasters saying no, and therefore, you know, a lot more. That's what excites me, honestly, is that we are getting us more and more sterile version of what corporate executives thinks will make money. In movies, this is the case through superhero franchises. In all of these other cases, it's the same everywhere else. It's just, what do people in the 1% think could make money? And that's what we get to see. Now we're democratizing distribution because social media and other places will be able to, and the creation of things, we'll see a lot more. We've seen a lot more diverse voices.
It's what you're seeing in podcasting that opened up the world without the necessarily the same middleman, because it meant that you could create quality that people found interesting in a format they hadn't seen before with a mic. For a couple of $100, you could do that. Now, similarly, again, we're doing it in other forms of art, other forms of creation. We're doing it for applications. We're doing it for websites. We're doing it for everything. So, look, I'm still the biggest advocate of those with deep creative expertise have so many advantages in the world today.
Yeah,
I built co-created off the basis that I think more creatives should run businesses, that they have no compulsion to or lack certain skills.
That's actually a very insightful thing, mate, because all of my friends that are the most creative people I know have always been worried about running businesses because of the lack of business skills and the lack of organization and account management skills, you know, whereas AI sort of fills that role very nicely. As you said earlier, it's the things you don't want to do, the things you don't want to, like, you can get a customer service agent right now. You know, you could buy a customer service agent to run your agency and you just be the creative. But that's the same analogy as the, like, sportswoman that took the AI agent to take the media obligations. It's like you're fully handing that side of things off to an AI agent.
Well, I would argue and counter that by saying the business people now have the advantage of not having to do the creative stuff. And so because the creative people don't know how to necessarily monetize and effectively create a creative business or monetize their creativity, right? Whereas now the business people who know business have not been able to really.
They've always been able to get the prospects. Now they need people to do the work. Ben, you're right. They find the work, but they can't do the work. And the people that can do the work very often can't find the work. But that will change as well with outreach, because again, like, a creative director could hire a business development agent to go and find them leads. And so that will change too. But you're right in that all the people that know how to find leads are now able to service them as well, which has never really been the case before. The problem with that model is, as you pointed out earlier, is the more thousands of people that do that, the less special it will be, and the value will just drop off a cliff. You know, imagine, you know, Zuckerberg was he was quoted on a podcast episode the other day. Soon enough, you'll just be able to bring your brand to Meta and a credit card, and we'll run ads for you. It'll AI generate them, find you an audience, do all of that stuff. And a lot of people in the social media, like, management background had a big backlash against that, as you can imagine, because it just makes us entirely irrelevant in his eyes. But then it's like, if everyone did do that, then the people who were the humans would be the against the grain thing, and it would become very, as soon as something's mainstream, it's tedious and valueless and boring. And as soon as it's everything, you're now way more in demand as a human again. So that's the swinging and roundabout effects. If that did happen to happen, even the pendulum would swing back the other way, because it would just become like so boring that people would seek real human interaction.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. You go down these like infinity loops of what ifs. It's almost like stoner conversation, because you go, well, it comes full circle every time you go. Look, the reality is, I think all of us don't know, but it's interesting to speculate.
I mean, it is the intersection of memes and machines. There'll be tons of memes on the way, but the machines, as Ben said, it's just going to get ever more powerful. And like, I think though that humans in the loop will always do best for creative and marketing. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe I'm biased. Storytelling, because we're all trying to sell to other humans, and that's never going to be different. Like, unless AIs get some buying power, autonomy, or some of their own, fair enough. But we're always right now selling to other humans. So there's a human in the loop's always going to be beneficial to that. But again, like, people can try to automate these things, but it just won't have the same deep connection if there's a human in the loop somewhere.
Yeah, who knows?
I think people that are just with experience and are smart will know what win. Because if you look at what's happening on social media with all these, you know, the Bigfoot trend and that, you know, how are they monetizing that beyond just shitty ad platform revenue? How are they protecting their IP versus long-term brand building?
No idea.
So I mean, and so you need somebody behind that brand knowing how to do that with a plan. And I think a lot of these people have no fucking clue what they're doing when it comes to actually turning this thing that they've now built into a financially stable and sustainable business.
That's actually kind of why I like.
You know what, Ben? Are you giving a plug for Co-Created? Is this a plug for Co-Created? Come at me.
I've got the answers to that. I'm telling you.
That you're so right, Ben. That's always been my biggest frustration, is thinking about like value. Like, what's the point in this, right? If you're just collecting millions of followers on somebody else's trend and you've got nothing to sell to them, there's literally zero point in that. Whereas if you're a very high cost dentist in LA with a massive, you know, like rent bill, and you can suddenly explode your customers because you've got something you can jump on, fair play, you know. But if you're just doing it with no intention or any idea on what to do with all this traffic, once you've got it, what's the point?
You know,
you may as well not.
That's
what you're describing, though, is nothing new, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because influencers, a few break out and understand how to leverage their platform in a really relevant way through products and services, through brand associations, deals, sponsorships. Some do it very well in the space, some don't. So I don't think there's anything particularly new. What I do think is the emergence of, like, it's the speed at which people can do this. Like the rapid growth of some of these pages is insane. If I'm looking at that, like, there is merit in growing very quickly while you can. So I kind of admire people that have the skills and capabilities to go do that. But I agree with both of you, but there needs to be some intent. What are you doing? What's the plan? If you have a plan of going, okay, well, how do I make this a living? How can I now start to turn this into merchandise because I've got loads of people invested in this koala storyline? How am I licensing this to XYZ? And we'll do this like outrageous swearing bear. Interesting. I don't know if I both told you this. I had Firefest, the IP came up for sale, and I had an email exchange with
oh my god,
the psychopathic liar. What's his name?
Isn't he trying to do a second one?
Yeah, he did. So he did Firefest too. So my belief is the IP of Firefest is really valuable, and I'll tell you why. Because it's part of internet culture. Because it's such a meme. Like, you think if I had this idea for like something called nostalgic brands, and it was taking IP and figuring out how you leverage it. And if you think of the macro view of the world, you've got more people who want to do experiences. There's something about Firefest where you show up at like a restaurant and it's like Fire Restaurant and it's so shit. There's club nights that are like Firefest. I think there's something in the IP. The merch, the internet is a wild place. I think there's a lot you could do with that. Anyway, the point I was saying is, I had an exchange with the guy and he's trying to sell it. And like, the one thing about trying to do a deal with someone that's a pathological liar and psychopath, he's probably sold it to like 40, 50 people already.
Yeah.
Which is just hilarious. So it was this, I was so juxtaposed, like, I would love to.
I can't believe he was allowed to run a second one. I can't actually believe it.
I'd love to. There's just something about it, and yeah.
I do understand, by the way. I think internet folklore, like culture stuff. You're right.
Yeah.
Like if you opened up like a meme T-shirt business with that IP, and you started suing other people that like tried to, jump on the back of that because you own the trademark for it. It's just like you said. I wouldn't ever want to trust that guy.
So can I tell you about the dude with the sign who's Fuck Jerry? So I'll tell you, Fuck Jerry's biggest revenue driver is not them selling branded partnerships. It's suing people. It's cease and desist letters for brands that do dude with a sign. So dude with a sign is IP. They send you $100,000 bill if you do a dude with a sign. They just aggressively chase you. In America, there's a lot of litigation. Most people don't even know that they're infringing upon IP. You get scared and you settle for 25K. They make 25Ks after 25Ks. Fuck Jerry by suing people. They have a whole team dedicated to suing people.
Nice.
Do you want me to blow your mind with something? In that same podcast I watched last night about AI and intelligence, for some reason there was a segment about someone owning the song Happy Birthday. They actually bought the rights to the Happy Birthday song, and they were going around suing people that were singing it at their parties.
So American. That's like
it's like the craziest story ever.
I saw something similar on Instagram yesterday. He was like, what you're going to do is you're going to sign up to all of these gurus selling courses, and because they're lazy, just opt out of the emails after a while and unsubscribe. And when they start sending you emails again, that's obviously not allowed. And then just
GDPR,
just sue them.
That's actually a very clever one if you're in Europe, because there's watertight.
Just
you know what? We should create a agent. It's the most aggressive lawyer agent in the world.
Mate, that would make so much money if we just went around basically signing up to so many different services, email newsletters, courses, and then opting out, and all the ones that keep spamming you, automate the letter to them. Bang.
By the way, gents, I am one of my friends. He's a top tier aerospace engineer, and I met him yesterday. He's a Canadian chap, awesome dude. He'd been in Web3 for a long time. He's built stuff for NASA. He's like really interesting. And now he just builds really cool AI tech. And he was showing me a law platform that he's spun up. Phenomenally interesting on how he's doing it. I'm like, could give him this brief and he would be able to turn this into something really cool. Like genuinely. But this is where like creative mind, unhinged person that understands the culture of the internet meets someone with technical capabilities that can actually build products and services and tech that works. That's the hierarchy. That's how you build a team that really wins today. It's like really cool. Anyway, gents, we should close out on that. We're probably going to get sued by Fuck Jerry. Anything I say, I just want to put a disclaimer out. Anything I say on this podcast may or may not be true. Put the disclaimer out so I can't get sued. Happy days. Cool. All right, fellas. Good chatting as always.
Yeah, it's been a while, guys.
We didn't talk about Ragebait, but we talked about everything else, which was cool and fun.
It all mixes in, doesn't it? It's like just talking about the future of social media, because that's memes and machines in a nutshell. If you think about it, like social media.
It was tech meets culture. That was all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is the intersection of tech meets culture. Someone asked me a really interesting question on the podcast. They said, if because music's a weird thing where it is culture, and it's all based on culture, like the next trend and stuff. So someone said, if you trained an AI model all the way up to the very beginning of hip hop, do you think the AI model would ever predict hip hop as a genre? And I thought probably not, no, because it is the intersection of culture is happening in America specifically, and that has to influence, the music.
The human experience has to influence.
You get basically the way I thought about it is there's like a few pipelines into things. Music is probably the most culture pipeline. You can't really go from 60s to 70s to 80s music without radical change in culture. And it's not really like building on top of one another. It's almost like anti it. You get really like hippie movement, and then you get like industrial techno as a like, you know, like a, what is it, like a bounce back from that. It's like the opposite of it. So AI would never sort of predict that or be able to model that.
Might create Crazy Frog. That might be the next era coming back. Right, gents, I need to bounce. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, same. All right, guys.